Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
Hello students, I Parmar Falguni welcome you all in Chaitanya Studio, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University in lecture series of BBAR 302, that is Human Resource Management, Block-01, Unit-02, that deals with Human Resource Planning. So now we'll start with the learning objectives. So in this particular unit, we will study about the meaning, characteristics, objective and various factors that could affect the human resource planning in the organization. Now let us see the introduction of human resource planning. So human resource planning simply means the estimations of the kind of requirement in the company in short term or maybe in long term in the organization. As per James W. Walker, human resource planning is the process of analyzing an organization's human resource requirement under changing condition and developing activities to satisfy those needs. So as per Walker, he stated that human resource planning is a process where the company will analyze the kind of requirement and then develop a kind of procedure that will fulfill the kind of requirement in the organization with the help of internal as well as external recruitment. So now let us start with studying the characteristics of human resource planning. So first, it is a kind of process where the organization will make a kind of strategy where they could effectively utilize the human resource of the organization. So once you have a clarity about what kind of work is to be done by the employees that are going to be selected, then you can select the employees and then you can plan the procedure as per the skills and as per the characteristics of employees. So if you know about the strength of the human resource of the company, you will plan the procedure in such a manner that will effectively utilize their strength, their knowledge, their skills and their capabilities at the workplace. Second, human resource planning, like human resource management, it is a continuous kind of a procedure. It is not a kind of a 1 week procedure, a one day kind of a procedure. Once you have planned, once you have selected a number of people in the company, after a period of time, you will again have to decode the kind of requirement of a company. Again, you will have to select a number of people. Then again, you will have to give them training and etc. So it is a kind of continuous process where because of change, where because of dynamism in the organization, you will have to select the number of people for different kind of work in the company. Third is related to deploying the right person at a right place of a time for the right kind of a job in the company. So when you are evaluating the human resource that is present in the organization, you will automatically decode that what kind of people should be deployed in which position in the company. So this will help the organization to plan the kind of job that is to be delivered by a right kind of a person at a right point of a time. Next, it always helps the organization to make a long-term kind of a strategy. It is very much easy to find or to decode or to deploy the person for a short period notice, which is only practicable when we wanted to recruit or make a plan for operative kind of a functions or for the bottom level in the organization. So when we have to make a long-term kind of a strategy, human resource planning will always help you to decode the kind of requirement to fulfill the objective. Next, it will always help the organization to make the kind of activities or to give them the work accordingly so that they could feel satisfaction from their work, which will help them to give the motivation in the workplace. Next is related to need for human resource planning. So why organization is in requirement to plan for the number of people that they already have. So first is for finding the replacement. So if any of the organization's employee is going to leave the organization, ultimately there is a vacant position in the company. So you as a manager will have to find a right kind of a person with same skills, with same knowledge, with same kind of skills, and will have to replace the person with that person for the vacant position, which is ultimately very much difficult for the organization. But human resource planning, which will help you to decode that what kind of person will substitute that person who is going to get replaced soon. Next is related to reduce labor turnover. Turnover is a kind of concept where you will find out that how many number of people are leaving the organization in a year or in a particular period of time. So when you decode the kind of skills, the kind of knowledge the people have, you will ultimately give them work according to their knowledge and skills. And if there is any requirement, you will also try to make a training and developmental plans for the employee for the enhancement of their knowledge. And likewise, ultimately it will help them to get the learning, to get the kind of education that is required to implement it in the workplace. This will help in the reduction of turnover ratio, and they will be retained. Retention means they will stay with the organization itself. So if you do a proper planning of the current employees of your company, this will help the company itself to hold on the employees, to hold on the current employees that the company have. Next is expansion plan. So if the company is planning to expand their business, to add the number of product in the company, in the current product, to add the number of outlets of the organization, and likewise it will help them to evaluate the total number of employees that they have and the kind of requirement that could come for new business and for different kind of work requirement in the company. Next is related to technological changes. So if there is any change in the external market which is related to technological changes, and if there is a deficiency in your current employee, then you will have to plan accordingly that what number of people would be required to work on the technological work, or what kind of employees are to be sent for training and developmental purpose. Next is related to assessing need. So in organization, when you have to re-engineer a kind of process where you again wanted to go for expansion plan, and when you have to give the responsibilities and duties to the current employees of the company, human resource planning will help you to decode the kind of employees you have, and as per their capabilities, you can then give them the work as per their suitability. The next is related to objectives of human resource planning. So first objective is to assess the current manpower need of the organization. So if company is focusing to change any of the plan, if company is in requirement to change any of the process, or maybe if company is opting for expansion planning and etc., the manager with the help of human resource planning can decode the number of employees they have and the number of requirement they have to do the work in the company. Next is it will help them to assess the kind of skills they have. So human resource planning, when you would be decoding, when you would be evaluating the current employees of the company, you would again come up with the strength and weaknesses of the employees. So this will help you to find out the skills that your current employee have and that your current employee don't have. So when you have the kind of information which is related to the strength of the employees, you can allocate the work to them accordingly. And when you also know about the kind of weaknesses of the employees in your company, you can again plan for the training and developmental needs. Third is related to training again. So human resource planning, it will help them to search for the weaknesses and then to select them to deliver the proper training. Next is related to labor cost. So when you properly do the human resource planning in the company, this will help you to avoid the labor cost, unnecessary recruitment, then unnecessary training programs and etc. But if you have a proper record of the kind of employees that you have, of the kind of skills that they have, so you can directly avoid the cost that you unnecessary use for the developmental of the employees in the company. This will help you to only do the kind of activities that is at most required. Then next is related to optimum usage. So if you are decoding properly, if you are evaluating the current scenario properly, you would come up with the proper data that is reliable, that is implementable, and ultimately you will have a very important data about how you can use their capability in such a manner that will ultimately praise them, that will ultimately give them a kind of self motivation and self satisfaction, and ultimately it will be beneficial for the company as well. Next is related to modernization. So because of this dynamism, because of lot of changes in internal and external environment, if you are planning for implementing the technology, for changing the technology, or for changing any of the system in the company, human resource planning factor will help you to select the kind of people which would be suitable for making the changes, for making the changes in the company, as well as for selecting the kind of people who should not be selected for basically technical related work, and likewise. Next is related to career advancement again. So this will help the manager of the company to evaluate the career objective of the current employees, and this will also help the manager to make a pathway so that the current objective of the individual could be matched with the organization objective at certain point of time. Next is related to productivity. Human resource planning will ensure the effective use of the current employees of the company, which ultimately means that their productivity, their knowledge would be at most used by the company, which will raise the productivity in the organization. So, next topic is related to factor affecting human resource planning. So, basically, there are two kind of factors that could impact or that could affect the human resource planning in the organization. So, first is related to external factor, and the other is related to internal factor. So, when we talk about external factor, these are the kind of factors which are not in the control of management. So any changes that is due to the government, that is due to the technological changes, that is due to the change in environment, or that is due to so government policies that deals with the rules and regulations that will impact the organization, because there could be a kind of change requirement in their current procedure which is dealing with the human resource management system. So if there is any change in the governmental policies, the management will have to look that what kind of changes necessary for the now company as well to change as per the requirement of government. Next is related to technological enhancement. So if you wanted to be the part of the competition, you will also have to enhance your technological system as per the system that is currently used by maximum of the organizational in the market. So if you wanted to still stay in the competitive market, you will also have to plan to implement the technological enhancement in the company, for which you will have to decode the kind of capabilities, the kind of skills that your current employees have, and if they don't have, then you will have to plan the training session as well, so that they could optimistically use the technological part in the company. Next is related to environment of business. Now this deals with the change in preference of market, the change in taste and preferences of customers in the market. So if you are a manufacturing kind of a unit, you will always have to decode about the choices of the customers, about the changes that in the taste and preferences of the customers, and likewise you will have to make certain changes that will help them, that will help the organization's employee to work according to the requirement of the customers. So that was about external factor which will affect the human resource planning. So internal factors, these are the kind of factors which are in the control of management of the company. So first is related to policies. So if the company has changed the objective, if the companies has changed the kind of work that they were currently doing or previously doing, so now they will also have to change the kind of people that could complement the objectives requirement, and likewise. So first is related to company's policies and strategy. So if there is any change in the current policy and in the current strategy of the company, the human resource manager will have to make a kind of detailed evaluation where they can again change number of people as per their demand for the fulfillment of objective. Second is related to culture of the organization. Culture means a set of belief, a set of value system, a thought system, assumptions that is practicable, and likewise. So when the number of people are changing, when there is a workplace diversity, where you always go for globalization at your workplace, you will also have to focus on certain kind of factors which is common, like code of conduct, like rules and regulations of the company, which will help the organization to build a same kind of interest, a same kind of value and belief system. It could be also ethics of the company. Again, it could be code of conduct of the company that will ensure that everyone will have to follow to build a strong kind of culture for which. So when in organization there are different vacancies which belongs to different kind of levels, the human resource manager will have to plan in such a manner that will fulfill their vacant position at a timely manner. Let's say for example, if they wanted to fulfill a vacant position for any of the bottom level position, it is not a time consuming process, they could easily do it at a very short notice. But if they wanted to do a recruitment for higher hierarchical position, let's say for middle level or top level department of the company, a top level hierarchy of the company, then they will have to do proper planning, for which they will have to evaluate the kind of requirement, the kind of skill requirement, and then they can go for recruitment and selection procedure in the company. So that is related to internal factors. So these were the two factors that impact the human resource planning of the organization. Now next topic is the human resource planning process in the organization. So process start with the analysis of plans and objective of the organization. So first of all, the human resource manager will have to evaluate the objective to be fulfilled by the selected number of people. So they'll have to analyze the objective, they'll have to analyze the kind of plan, and then they can decide that what kind of employment, what kind of people would be required for the fulfillment of that objective. So initially we would start by decoding the objective of the company. The next is related to forecasting the demand of manpower. Here, the manager will decode the kind of demand, the kind of skills, the kind of capability, the kind of knowledge that is required to fulfill the objective of the company. Then, if we talk about forecasting of manpower, there are different kind of techniques. First is related to judgmental techniques. Here the forecasting is based on the judgment of manager itself. Here the manager will decide about what kind of skills, about what kind of competencies is required for the fulfillment of objective. Here the manager will estimate the kind of competency, then manager could cope up with number of people as well, and they can form a expert group and they can then consult about the kind of requirement for the fulfillment of objective. Next is related to statistical project. Here in statistical project kind of a technique, the manager will have to thoroughly study about the past record, they'll have to do a ratio analysis, they'll have to identify the kind of variables that could affect the human resource in the company. They will have to do a proper study about the past kind of requirement of the company, about the past kind of techniques that were used for the fulfillment of requirement of the company, and then they'll have to effectively implement the process in the company. Next is related to forecasting the factors which affect the human resource requirement. So that two technique, ratio analysis, technical analysis, as well as judgmental technique and statistical technique was related to forecasting techniques. Third point in process is related to forecasting the factors which affect the human resource requirement. So the manager will also have to forecast about the kind of requirement that the company is having for the fulfillment of the objective. So here the company could find out the data from human resource audit, from forecasting about the reasons for employee who is actually leaving the organization, and likewise. So here the manager will use the data, the past data, about the previous auditing data of the organization, and then the person will decode about the kind of requirement of the people, or from where the people could actually recruit the kind of person for suitable position, and likewise. Then third, that is related to again forecasting the factors. Then fourth point in the process of human resource planning is estimating the net human resource requirement. So here the manager will look into the matter, that what are the number of available people in the organization with the help of this internal mobility, as well as the company could see from the past record as well, that what kind of requirement is there and how much availability is there in the organization, and then they could come up with the result, that whether the company is going in surplus or the company is facing the shortage, so that they can effectively plan for the recruitment and selection procedure of the upcoming requirement in the company. So that was about point number 4. Then next point in process is related to developing employment plans. So now once you are once you know about the kind of people that is required, the kind of objective you are deciding, the number of people that is there present in the organization, the number of people that you may require to recruit from outside the organization, then you will have to make a plan about the job description and about the job specification. Then next step in the process of human resource plan deals with the developing of human resource plan. So ultimately, so here while developing the plan in the organization, you will have to estimate the surplus number of people if there is, and if there is deficiency, you will have to estimate the number of deficiency of employees in the company. Then again you will have to plan for the training and developmental plans if required, and if you plan to recruit the employees from the external market, again you will have to give them a basic kind of training requirement. Then if there is any necessary to change their work behavior, to change the kind of roles and responsibility which ultimately deals with the modification of their current role, then again you will have to make a plan for them, that what kind of employees will require a change in roles and responsibility. Then next, prepare a plan to retrench. If you feel that the current employees in your organization is in a kind of a phase where they have come at a retirement age, or where you no more require the people in your organization, then again you can retrench or dismissal the current employees of the company. Then the last point where you will have to make a plan for human resource management is related to retaining the current employees. So as a manager, they always require to make a plan which encourages the current employees to stay with the company. So that ultimately means retaining the company. So while developing the human resource plan for the company, the manager will have to play a multiple roles where they can evaluate all the kind of necessary requirement of the company as well as the employees, and then come up with the procedure in such a manner that would be helpful for the company. That was about the process of human resource planning. Now next, we'll see the topic that is related to requirement of an effective human resource plan. So if you wanted to make a plan which is beneficial, which will ultimately give you a gain in the company, then you will have to see a number of factors that will ultimately help you. So first is, any plan that you are making in the organization, that should be in coordination with the vision or mission of the organization. Second, there should be always an involvement of top management while framing the plan for the allocation and distribution or delegation of roles and responsibilities in the organization. Third, there should be no communication gap. So whatever number of people you are selecting for changing the roles and responsibility, or for selecting to give the training and developmental plans to the company, you as a manager will always have to ensure that there should be no communication gap. They should properly communicate with each other, and if there is a requirement to solve any of the confusion, it should be done on the spot, so that the work could not get messed up. Next is related to record. So any change in plan, any change in distribution of roles and responsibility, any change in selection of people in the company, the management will have to take a detailed record of each and every factor that is important in the company, so that the human resource auditing could be complemented. Next is related to feedback. So the employee of the organization should always get the feedback about their work, as well as the manager should also get the feedback from the employee itself, so that if there is any requirement in changing in work life, in changing in working behavior in the company, that could be timely done. Next is related to technique. So the management will have to decide about what particular technique should be used for forecasting, and the company should also have a kind of infrastructure that is required. The company should always decode the financial requirement as well as time requirement, that would be that would help them to proper plan the frame, and to properly frame the plan in the company, and likewise. And last is related to the process that is being used in the company for framing the human resource plan. It should be simple, it should be understandable by all the employees itself. There should be no language barrier, and there should be no use of jargon, and likewise in the we have studied about the requirement of an effective human resource plan. The next topic deals with the significance of human resource planning. So how much important is human resource planning activity for the organization? So as we have seen, there are number of factors that could impact the human resource in the organization, for which a proper planning is required. So first is assessing future. So human resource planning will help you to decode the kind of requirement that the company could face in near future. Second is, it will help you to make a plan in such a manner that will optimistically use the skills and characteristics of employee of the company. Next is, if company is having a kind of deficiency, or if the employees of the organization has weaknesses, so the company will effectively plan the training and developmental sessions, so that the current skill of employees could be add on and could be changed into positive one. Next is related to designing compensation. Human resource planning helps the organization to frame a competitive plan for the organization, which will attract and ultimately retain the current employees of the company. Next is related to designing management. So organizations manager next is related to designing management development program. Here the management of the organization will be helped by this proper human resource planning, because it will help them to ultimately make a kind of strategical change, a kind of plan that will help them to effectively fulfill the current objective of the company. Next is, it will help the organization's manager to ultimately create a competitive advantage, which means a kind of uniqueness which the other company does not have in the market. The next is related to help in formation of plan and strategy for future. So ultimately, human resource planning will help the organization to formulate plan in such a manner that will help the organization for effectively changing the strategy, for effectively managing the workforce of the organization, and ultimately completing the future goals and objective of the organization. Next is related to benefits of human resource planning. So there are number of benefits which is related to human resource planning. First is related to, of course, determining the future need. Next is related to reduction of labor cost, because while decoding and while evaluating the current workforce, you will come up with the kind of strength the employees have and the kind of weaknesses the employee have. So if you are planning a new process, if you are planning to change any of the strategy of the company, you can ultimately select the current workflow for workforce, which will help the organization to cut out the cost that could be used for recruitment and selection procedure in the company. Next is related to optimistically using the current manpower, because we already know about their strength. Next is related to strategic planning. So after knowing the objective of the company and the strength and weaknesses of the company will have a clear knowledge about the process and about the changes that is required for the fulfillment of objective, which will help to create them a kind of strategy that would be most appropriate for the current situation and current point of time. Next is related to creating highly talented personnel. So because of a training and development plan, if your organization has decoded that there is a requirement of increasing the strength of the company, the manager could ultimately plan for training and developmental sessions, and which will help to create a highly talented personnel for the company. Next is related to identifying future requirement of manpower at different level for different department or different functional unit. Then ultimately human resource plan will help the organization to get in connection with the individual person, which will help them to know about their career objective, and ultimately manager will make a plan and will also make an kind of initiatives which will help the organization's employee to fulfill their career objective as well. And last is related to improve overall business plan. So if there is any requirement to change any of the plan, any of the employee, or any of the strategy of the organization, this human resource planning and effectively knowing about the current employee, the current workforce of the organization will improvise the strategy formation, will improvise the process of the company, and ultimately the business the overall objective of the company could somehow be fulfilled properly. Next topic is related to limitations of human resource planning. So every coin has two sides. So human resource planning also have a kind of limitation to it. One is related to inaccuracy of forecasting. So there are number of techniques, but if you as a manager select wrong kind of technique for forecasting the people of for company, then there could be an inaccuracy selection of the people and a wrong selection of the people, due to which the objective could not be fulfilled. Next is related to not proper support of the top management. If your top management people is not supporting you for properly fulfillment of the objective, then that will become the limitation of the company. Next is related to resistance from employee. If employee itself do not want to do the kind of work that is being allocated to them, and if you are adding certain kind of roles to them, if they are not willingly accept the kind of roles and likewise, then it can also create a kind of problem. If you have selected a number of people and if they deny that no, we are not going to do, or we are not changing our role, and we are not okay by using the type of technology that you are planning to use in the company, then this could be a kind of limitation for the company. Next is related to forceful adoption. Again, if you are forcefully adopting a kind of change, a kind of technology in the company where the management, where the employees of the company is denying, then it could be limitation, because they will not ultimately give their 100% for the fulfillment of objective, and it will become the limitation. Next is uncertain, where you don't know about the current plan, where you don't have a validity, where you don't have a reliable kind of plan, and then when you are selecting a kind of people who is insufficient and likewise, then there would be a kind of uncertainty for the fulfillment of objective in the company. Next is related to required coordination from all managers. If there is a requirement that all the managers are required to play an important role for evaluating and for planning for the human resource deployment in the company, and the number of people deny for participating in future planning, then it could be a kind of limitation. And last is related to expensive and time consuming. So human resource planning is a process where it could take a longer period of time to properly evaluate the current number of people in the company, and it could be little costly sometime as well, because you may have to use a statistical tool which has a predetermined cost with it. So that is why it is a kind of expensive as well as time consuming process. So that was about limitation of human resource planning. So today we studied about human resource planning, we studied about the meaning of human resource planning, we studied about the process of human resource planning, we studied about the advantages that is related to human resource planning in the company, as well as we have seen the limitation of human resource planning. So that's it for today. We are winding up with Block 1, Unit 2. Bye. Have a nice day.